I trusted Samuel the way you trust the air you breathe. Personal trainer, easy smile, the kind of guy who makes everyone feel seen. When I traveled for work for 2 weeks, he joked that he'd miss his boss. I laughed, but I shouldn't have laughed. Scene 1. The weight of a notification I never imagined I'd one day be afraid of my own phone. But that's exactly what happened on that Tuesday. When the notification lit up my screen while I was lying in the hotel bed. The cold light hit my face in the dark, and my stomach sank before I even read the message. Motion detected. Kitchen. 3 words. My heart started racing. My hands shook as I unlocked the phone, hesitating over the app like not opening it could somehow keep reality outside for a few more minutes. I already knew. Deep down, I always knew. But knowing and seeing are 2 completely different things. I opened it anyway. The video loaded, and then the image of my kitchen appeared. So familiar and so foreign at the same time. The white counter where I had breakfast every morning was there, perfectly lit. And then he walked in, Samuel, my husband. The man who that same morning had texted saying he missed me. He was laughing, and someone was with him. A woman. I recognized her immediately. One of his clients. The one who always commented on his stories with hearts and fire emojis. She was sweaty, wearing tight workout clothes, laughing comfortably like she was at home. And then she climbed onto the counter. My counter. I saw his hands wrap around her thighs, saw him lean his face into her neck, and even though I wanted to, I couldn't look away. The audio caught everything. Her voice, low, but clear. Better before your wife gets back. And then his, the voice I knew better than my own, laughing. She never suspects anything. I stopped breathing. I let the phone fall onto the bed like it was burning me, but the image stayed there, and I couldn't stop staring. That man, the one I chose, the one I loved, the one I trusted, was doing that in my house and laughing at my naivete. I sat on the bed for I don't know how long, hugging my knees, feeling the AC cooling my sweaty skin. I heard cars outside, people laughing in the hallway, life happening while mine was falling apart. Then another notification arrived. Motion detected, living room. My hand moved on its own, opening the next video. Another woman, another day, same house, same farce. Then another and another, like I had opened some digital Pandora's box. That night, lying in a bed that wasn't mine, in a city that didn't want me there, I understood that the problem wasn't just the cheating. It was the fact that while I closed my eyes and chose to believe, he turned our home into a rotating stage of lies. And the worst part, I had installed the cameras hoping to prove I was wrong. Scene 2, before everything collapsed. Sometimes I try to remember exactly when things started to crack. Not the obvious moment. Not the day I installed the cameras or the day I watched the videos. But the real moment, that first split second when something shifted and I just chose not to see it. Because before everything became this, before the cameras and the lies and the Sunday lunch that destroyed an entire family, there was a life that looked perfect. At least that's what I posted. Samuel was the kind of man who made everyone feel special. Personal trainer, easy smile. That natural charisma some people are just born with while others spend their whole lives trying to fake it. He walked into a place and within 5 minutes he knew the bartender's name, the receptionist's name, the parking attendant's name, and they all smiled when they saw him again, like he was a human version of sunshine on a cloudy day. I fell in love with that. With the way he made me feel seen, chosen, important. He had this way of tilting his head when I talked, of holding my gaze 2 seconds longer than necessary, of touching my shoulder so lightly it felt like he was saying, "You're different from everyone else." Now I know it was technique, but back then it was magic. Our routine looked like something straight out of a margarine commercial. He left early for the gym, came back mid-morning sweaty and smiling, went straight to the kitchen and made coffee like he was hosting a cooking show. I worked from home, sitting at the dining table with my laptop open, answering emails while the smell of coffee filled the apartment. "Good morning, boss," he would say, walking in with 2 mugs, like I was some important CEO and he was my devoted assistant. And I laughed. I always laughed. I played along, pretended to be serious, Asked if he'd clocked in, if he was hitting the monthly goals, and he responded with that smile I thought belonged only to me. We had our own language, inside jokes, codes only the two of us understood, and I really believed all of that was exclusive. We posted workout pictures together, me doing squats, him helping me fix my posture, that fitness couple stuff that blows up on Instagram and makes everyone comment power couple with heart emojis. And I liked that. I liked the image we projected, liked believing we had figured out some relationship secret other people hadn't. Our home was an extension of all that. I chose every detail carefully. The gray couch in the living room, the soft rug, the plants on the balcony, the white kitchen counter that reflected the morning light like something out of a movie. That space was ours. It was where we laughed, fought, made up, watched shows curled up on the couch, had slow Sunday breakfasts, and it was exactly there, in that carefully built setting, that he decided to stage his betrayals. I didn't know that yet. Back then, when he got home and went straight to the shower, I thought it was just because he was sweaty from training. When his phone rang late at night and he said it was just a client with a diet question, I believed him, because why wouldn't I? When the neighbor commented, that day in the elevator, that things seemed lively in my apartment, I laughed reflexively and changed the subject. Because we don't want to believe. We want to keep living inside the version of the story that's easier to swallow, even when the stomach is turning and the whole body is screaming that something's wrong. Today, when I look at photos from that time, I see a woman smiling at the camera not knowing the house behind her was already on fire. And the worst part is, if I could go back in time and warn her, I don't know if she'd believe me, because I didn't have proof yet. And without proof, I was just another dramatic, insecure, jealous, overreacting wife. So I did what anyone does when they start doubting their own sanity. I bought 2 hidden cameras and installed them in my own house. Scene 3. The sentence that cracked everything. The first real crack came from a sentence so simple that if I had blinked, I would have missed it completely. It was in an elevator. Tuesday afternoon, heading down to grab a package the doorman had called about, hair tied up any old way, old sweatshirt, looking like someone who'd worked all day from home and hadn't seen the sun since morning. The elevator stopped on the 4th floor and the lady from 402 stepped in, a woman in her 50s with too much red lipstick and that smile of someone who knows more than they should. "Hi, dear," she said, pressing the ground floor button even though it was already lit. "Hi," I answered automatically, staring at the numbers descending. And then she said it, casually, like commenting on the weather. "The movement in your place has been lively, huh?" My stomach twisted, but I laughed. I laughed because that's what we do when we're uncomfortable, when we don't know what to say, when we need 2 seconds to process what we just heard. I laughed and said lightly, without feeling light at all, "Oh, it's Samuel's work. Private training sessions, that stuff." She lifted an eyebrow, and that tiny gesture, that eyebrow rising half a centimeter, burned into my memory like someone had turned on a neon warning sign. "Oh, yes, of course. The training," she said, and the way she said it, with that tiny pause before the word, made me feel like the elevator floor tilted 2 degrees to the left. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. She stepped out first, waved, said, "See you, dear," and walked away, leaving behind expensive perfume and an emotional grenade she didn't even know she'd dropped. I grabbed my package at the front desk without even checking what it was, went back upstairs with my legs moving on autopilot, opened the door, dropped the box on the table, sat on the couch and stared at the wall like it might give me answers I didn't want to look for. Lively movement. What did that mean? Noise, music, laughter, women's voices that weren't mine? Or was it just a bored, nosy lady making something out of nothing, and I, exhausted and paranoid, was turning an innocent sentence into evidence of a crime? When Samuel got home that night, I was in the kitchen, pretending to stir something on the stove even though I was just pushing food around. He walked in sweaty, towel around his neck, smiling, kissed my neck lightly, and went straight to the shower. I heard the water running, heard him humming something, heard my own breathing getting faster. Then I said, loud enough for him to hear through the bathroom door, "Samuel, the neighbor said the movement here at home has been lively." The water paused for 2 seconds. Just 2. Then started again. "Oh yeah," he shouted back, with that practiced carelessness I only recognized later, after replaying that moment 1,000 times in my head. "Yeah," I repeated. He walked out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, hair dripping, leaning on the doorframe with that relaxed posture of someone who has nothing to hide. "Oh, must be because of the sessions I've been giving here," he said, grabbing clean underwear from the drawer. "The gym's under renovation, remember? So I'm bringing a few clients here just so they don't lose their rhythm. Nothing big." Then he smiled. That smile. "Why? Is it bothering you?" "No," I lied. "Great, because it's just until the gym gets back to normal. A week tops." He went back into the bathroom, and I stayed there, alone in the kitchen, holding a wooden spoon and feeling the floor shift under my feet. I wanted to believe. God, how I wanted to. But a small, stubborn voice inside my head started whispering questions I wasn't sure I wanted answered. And that night, lying in the dark next to him, listening to the peaceful breathing of someone sleeping with a clean conscience, I grabbed my phone and Fagre for the first time, typed into the search bar, "Discreet residential hidden camera. Scene 4. Watch or trust." There's a silent war that happens inside us when we start doubting someone we love. It's a battle between what the body feels and what the mind tries to rationalize, and I spent entire days fighting that war alone, telling no one. Because how do you explain to someone that you're thinking about spying on your own husband? "You're crazy," I told myself, closing the browser tab with the camera websites. But 2 hours later, I was back, reading reviews, comparing prices, saving links. It was like scratching a wound you know you shouldn't touch, but that burns so much you can't leave it alone. Every detail I replayed in my head, the strange smell in the living room, the damp towel left somewhere unusual, the way he angled his phone away when I walked by, fed the voice saying, "Investigate," while the louder voice shouted, "Stop being dramatic." I felt ridiculous. Ashamed of myself for even considering it, like spying on my husband was the final confirmation that I had failed as a wife, as a woman, as a person. The articles I read always talked about trust, communication, openness, and there I was in the middle of the night, researching spy cameras like I was planning some undercover mission. But doubt doesn't starve. It feeds on crumbs, on half-explained sentences, on mismatched schedules, on glances that shift a second too late. And the more I tried to ignore it, the more it grew, until it filled every empty corner of my mind. The package arrived on a Thursday. Small box, discreet, generic name on the label. I waited for him to leave for work before opening it, sitting on the living room floor, hands shaking as I tore the tape. Inside were 2 tiny cameras, smaller than I expected, instructions in 3 languages, and a QR code for the app. I stared at them for 10 minutes, just stared, like they might tell me whether I was doing the right thing or crossing a line I shouldn't cross. I installed the first one in the living room. Easier than I thought. A click here, another there, the lens blending in with the other electronics so well no one would notice unless they were looking for it. My heart was pounding so loud I felt the pulse in my throat, but my hands were steady, methodical, like some part of me had already accepted this was necessary. The second camera went in the kitchen, and that's where I hesitated. Because the living room was still kind of neutral. But the kitchen was where we had coffee in the morning, where I sometimes worked with my laptop on the counter, where we made weekend plans while he cooked and I tasted the sauce straight from the pan. Installing a camera there felt like desecrating something I still wanted to believe was sacred. But I installed it anyway. I set up the app, created a password, turned on motion notifications, and with everything ready, I sat on the couch and stared at my phone screen, watching the live image of my own living room through the lens I had put there myself. The feeling was strange, unsettling, like I had split in 2. The woman living in that apartment and the woman now watching it from outside, waiting to catch something that a part of me still hoped I'd never see. When Samuel got home that night, I was on the couch watching TV and he kissed my forehead, asked about my day, grabbed water from the fridge, everything normal, everything the same. Except now there was a camera recording his every move, and I didn't know if that would bring me peace or destroy me completely. Scene 5. When trusting hurt more than doubting. Spending a full week with hidden cameras inside your own house is a bizarre experience I wouldn't recommend to anyone. You start looking at every room differently, like the furniture has become silent witnesses to something that maybe hasn't even happened yet. I checked the app compulsively. In the morning, still in bed, before brushing my teeth. During lunch, between meetings. At night, locked in the bathroom, sitting on the toilet lid, watching the recordings from the day. Most were boring. Samuel coming and going, eating something, checking his phone, totally normal. And every normal video made me feel worse, because it meant I was wrong. That I had turned my marriage into a private reality show out of paranoia. That I was exactly the kind of woman I always criticized. Insecure, controlling, unable to trust. I thought about taking the cameras down. I even grabbed a chair to remove the one in the living room, but stopped halfway, frozen, holding that stupid chair, wondering if I really wanted to go back to voluntary blindness, or if some part of me already knew that if I removed them now, I'd never have the courage to put them back. Then came the trip. 2 weeks away. Work event in another city. Everything paid by the company. Nice hotel. The kind of professional obligation you can't refuse. Samuel helped me pack, joked that he'd miss his boss, drove me to the airport, stood in the departure area waving until I disappeared behind the doors. If that was acting, he deserved an award. For the first 2 days, nothing special happened. I watched the camera videos religiously. Him coming home, undressing, showering, eating alone in front of the TV. We texted, video called. He complained that the house felt empty. I laughed and said it was just a week and a half. But on the 3rd day, he stopped replying so quickly. And on the 4th day, when I woke up and opened the app out of habit, there were 7 motion alerts. 7. My stomach flipped. I opened the first one, hands sweating, and saw him entering the living room with a woman beside him. They were laughing, sweaty, she in a sports bra and leggings, he in a tank top, and the way they moved around the room was too intimate, too comfortable, like it wasn't the first time. I watched the whole video without blinking, saw him grab water for the 2 of them, saw her sit on the couch, the same couch where he and I watched movies cuddled on Sundays. Saw his hand land on her shoulder in that way I recognized instantly, because it was the same gesture he used with me when he wanted to start something. I opened the second video, kitchen. She climbed onto the counter, my counter, that white counter I chose, cleaned every day, and he stood between her legs, hands on her thighs, face in her neck. The audio caught everything. "Better before your wife gets back," she said, laughing. And he, my husband, the man who swore fidelity in front of God and everyone, answered, "She never suspects anything." I dropped the phone onto the bed like it burned me. I sat there in the hotel room, the sound of the air conditioner filling the silence, and realized I was crying without making a sound, tears running down my face while my body rocked forward and backward, like I was trying to soothe my own pain. And you know what was worst? Not the cheating. The sentence. She never suspects anything. Like I was stupid. Like trusting him was idiocy. Like all the love I gave, all the trust I invested was just an inside joke he shared with other women inside my own house. I spent the rest of the night watching the other videos. It wasn't just one. There were several, different women, different days, same script. The living room where I worked became a bedroom. The kitchen where I made coffee became the backdrop for casual hookups. The house I built with so much care became a rotating set of betrayals. And I, far away, watched the destruction of everything just by pressing play. And deep down, a part of me was grateful I had installed those cameras, because without them, I never would have believed it. Without them, he would have kept calling me dramatic every time I questioned something. And I would have spent the rest of my life doubting my own intuition. Scene 6. 7 days of pretending. Going back home knowing what I knew was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Getting on the plane, making the connection, sitting in the Uber with my suitcase in the back, going up the elevator, putting the key in the lock. Every movement felt like slow motion, like my body was resisting walking into a place that wasn't safe anymore. Samuel was there. He opened the door before I even finished turning the key, smiling, that smile I knew by heart, and pulled me into a tight hug like he had really missed me. "I missed you so much, babe," he said, kissing my forehead, my nose, my lips. I let him. I let him hug me, kiss me, grab my suitcase, and ask about the trip while I walked into the apartment like it was a movie set and I was the actress playing the wife who still didn't know anything. And I played the role well. Told him about the event, the talks, the hotel, the terrible airport food, laughed at his jokes, accepted the coffee he made, sat on the couch, that damn couch, and pretended I didn't see the mental replay of another woman sitting there days earlier, but I didn't confront him. Not yet. Because for the first time in my life, I wanted control over how this story would end. I wanted to choose the timing, the place, the witnesses. I wanted him to feel at least a fraction of the shock I felt when I opened those videos in a hotel room 1,000 miles away. So I waited. And while I waited, I watched. I watched how easily he lied, like it was second nature. How he looked me in the eyes and said, "Nothing happened while you were gone. Just work and home." While I knew exactly how many women had walked through our living room that week. I watched how he stayed affectionate, attentive, making morning coffee, asking about my day, having sex with me with the same intensity as always, maybe even more. Like he wanted to reinforce the illusion that we were a solid, passionate, unbreakable couple. And the more I watched, the more a cold, calculated rage grew inside me. Not the explosive kind that makes you scream or throw things. A cold rage. Patient. The kind that makes you plan every move with surgical precision. On Thursday, 3 days after I got back, I texted his mother. "Hi, how about a Sunday lunch at our place? It's been a while since we were all together." She replied in 5 minutes, excited, saying she'd bring dessert, that she missed spending time with us. I called his father too, his sister, his brother, invited everyone, made sure to sound warm, insistent, until they all confirmed. Samuel was surprised when I told him, but didn't suspect a thing. "Cool, babe. It'll be great to see everyone," he said, already thinking about what food to buy, what drinks, making lists on his notes app. And I nodded, smiling, while mentally organizing the videos I'd show and the order I'd play them in. Because if there was one thing I had learned in all those days, witnesses change everything. It's easy to lie to one person, but to a room full of people, with proof playing on a 55-inch TV, that's a whole different story. Scene 7, the Sunday lunch. Sunday started sunny, one of those days way too pretty to be the stage for a tragedy, but life has a questionable sense of humor, and sometimes the worst moments happen in the best settings. I woke up before the alarm. Truth is, I barely slept. I spent the whole night staring at the ceiling, mentally rehearsing every step of what I was about to do, wondering if I was ready to destroy everything at once or if I should step back, give him another chance, try talking privately first. But then I remembered the sentence. She never suspects anything. And the doubt disappeared. I got up, took a shower, put on nice clothes. I don't even know why. Maybe because some part of me wanted to look in control. Strong, intact, even though I was completely shattered inside. I set the table carefully, put on the good tablecloth, the plates we only used on special occasions, the crystal glasses we'd gotten as a wedding gift. Samuel woke up excited, the way he got when he was about to see his family. He bought good meat, imported beer, expensive dessert, spent the whole morning cooking, humming along with the radio, calling me over to taste the seasoning, kissing my neck while stirring the pot. If I didn't know what I knew, it would have been a perfect Sunday. His family started arriving around noon. His mom came first, bringing cake and tight hugs. Then his dad, serious as always but smiling when he saw his son, his sister, his brother, sister-in-law, the little niece running around the house. The living room got full, loud, warm in that big family way that feels comforting. Everyone sat at the table. Overlapping conversations about soccer, work, the kids starting school soon, the mother-in-law with knee problems. Samuel at the head of the table, telling some funny gym story, making everyone laugh, being exactly the kind of son and son-in-law any family would be proud to have. And me, sitting across from him, with the remote hidden under my leg. I waited for everyone to serve themselves. Waited for the plates to be full, the glasses full, the conversations at their peak. And then I said, with the calmest voice I could manage, "Before we start, I want to show you all something." The noise died down a bit. Samuel looked at me, curious but not worried, because why would he be? I grabbed the remote, turned on the TV, mirrored my phone screen, and hit play on the first video. For 2 seconds, no one understood what they were looking at. Our living room on the TV filmed from a weird angle, surveillance camera footage, confusion on their faces, glances exchanged. His mom frowned, not getting it. And then Samuel appeared on the screen, with a woman, sweaty, laughing, climbing onto the couch, his hands on her waist, his mouth on her neck. His mom's fork fell onto the plate with a loud metallic clink that echoed through the dining room. What is this?" she whispered. No one answered, because the video was still playing, and now there was audio. Her voice, "Better before your wife gets back." His voice, "She never suspects anything." Samuel went completely pale, not red, not purple, white, like every drop of blood had drained from his face at once. He stood up so fast the chair fell backward. "Turn that off," he said, voice hoarse, almost breathless. I didn't turn it off. I switched to the second video. Kitchen. Another woman, same counter, same betrayal. His sister covered her mouth, eyes wide. His dad stood up, pushed his chair aside, and walked away from the table without a word. His mom started crying. Silent tears sliding down her face as she looked at her son like she was seeing a stranger. I played the third video. "Stop that!" Samuel yelled, trying to grab the remote from my hand. I stepped back, still calm, still in control. "No," I said, and my voice came out firm, clear, like it belonged to someone else. "They need to see. They need to know who you really are." And I kept playing the videos, one after another, while his family fell apart along with me. When the last video ended, I turned off the TV. The silence that followed was so heavy you could hear everyone breathing. I looked at Samuel. He was standing against the wall, hands shaking, eyes red. "Nice private training, huh?" I said. Then I stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked out of my own house. Because if I stayed there 1 second longer, I would have fallen apart too. And I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. Scene 8. The silence after the explosion. I drove aimlessly for almost 2 hours. I hadn't planned on leaving, hadn't thought about what would come next. I just knew I needed distance. Distance from that table, from his family's eyes looking at me like I was the villain for revealing what he'd done. Because there's something strange that happens when you expose someone's betrayal in front of others. Suddenly you become the problem, not the cheater. You, the person who dared to ruin a Sunday lunch, who made his mother cry, who humiliated the man in front of everyone. I pulled into an empty supermarket parking lot, turned off the engine, and only then, alone in that silence, I finally broke. I cried in a way I hadn't cried since I was a kid. That ugly cry, with sobs, with shortness of breath, with your whole body shaking. I held onto the steering wheel so hard my hands went white, and I screamed at the windshield, at the empty passenger seat, at God, at no one, everything I had held in during those days of pretending. Why wasn't I enough? The question slipped out before I could stop it, and once it was out, it kept echoing. Why wasn't I enough? What was missing in me? What did those women have that I didn't? Was it my body, my personality, my availability? I had given everything: trust, love, loyalty, home, life. And he still went looking for something elsewhere, something I never even knew was missing. My phone vibrated. 17 unread messages. "Samuel, where are you?" "Samuel, please come back so we can talk." "Samuel, I can explain." "Samuel, you had no right to do that." "Samuel, my mom is sick because of you." I read that last one 3 times. Because of you. He'd done it. Even caught in the act. Even exposed. Even destroyed. He still managed to twist the situation and make me the guilty one. And the scariest part. For a second, I almost believed him. I almost believed I'd gone too far, that I should have talked privately, that humiliating him in front of everyone had been cruel, unnecessary, vindictive. But then I remembered the sentence. She never suspects anything. Remembered how many times I raised legitimate doubts and he flipped the script, making me look crazy. Remembered how many private conversations we'd already had where he swore I was overreacting, imagining things, needing to trust more. Private conversations didn't work with Samuel, because he was too good with words. And I couldn't stand one more moment of being convinced my own intuition was lying. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, turned the car back on, and drove to my sister's place, because at that moment, the last thing I wanted was to return to that apartment that wasn't my home anymore. Scene 9. Living in the ruins, I stayed at my sister's place for 3 days. 3 days sleeping in the guest room, waking up in the middle of the night with my heart racing, dreaming I was still married, waking up and remembering I wasn't anymore. She didn't ask questions. She just made coffee, let me cry, held my hand when I couldn't speak, and when I finally managed to tell her everything, the cameras, the videos, the lunch, she didn't say, "I told you so," or "You should have talked first." She just hugged me tight and whispered, "You were brave." Brave. That wasn't how I felt. I felt destroyed, ashamed, small. I felt like someone who had lost a war she didn't even know she was fighting. On Wednesday, I went back home. Not because I wanted to, but because my name was on the lease too. And if someone was going to leave that apartment, it sure as hell wasn't going to be me. I opened the door slowly, like I was walking into an abandoned house. Samuel was sitting on the couch. He stood up the second he saw me, puffy eyes, unshaved, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "You came back," he said, and there was something in his voice, relief, desperation, hope, that made me angry. "I live here," I answered, cold. "We need to talk." "No. Please." "No," I repeated, firmer this time. He took a step toward me, and I took a step back. "Don't touch me," I said, and the iciness in my own voice scared me. I watched something break on his face, like he finally understood there was no going back. "Was it really that bad that you can't even listen to me?" he asked. And there was actual hurt there. Hurt. As if I had done something to him. I laughed. A short, bitter, humorless laugh. "What do you want me to listen to, Samuel? That it was a mistake? That you were confused? That they didn't mean anything?" My voice started rising, slipping out of my control. "You slept with other women in our house, on our couch, on our counter, and you still laughed about me, saying I never suspected anything. I can explain." "Explain what?" I screamed, feeling hot, furious tears coming back. "Explain how you looked me in the eyes every day and lied. Explain how you made me feel crazy every time I questioned something. Explain how you touched me knowing you'd touched someone else hours before." He went silent, because there was no explanation. There never was. "I want you to leave," I said, calmer now, but with a firmness that came from a deep place I didn't even know existed. "This is my place too," he tried. "Then I'll leave," I said. "But I'm not sharing this space with you for one more day." He tried negotiating, tried convincing me we could take a break, but keep living together while we worked things out. And maybe, weeks earlier, I would have accepted that. But right then, looking at him, the man I loved, trusted, built a life with, I felt nothing. No love, no hate, just a huge emptiness where something used to be. "You have until the weekend to pack your things and go," I said, and I went upstairs without looking back. Scene 10. Deconstructing the lie. In the days Samuel took to pack up and finally leave, I started doing something I hadn't planned, an autopsy of our relationship. Sitting on the closet floor, surrounded by boxes, old photos, and things we'd collected over the years. I started revisiting everything. Not with nostalgia, but with the brutal clarity that only comes when you stop trying to save something that died long ago. I picked up a picture from our first year together, Me smiling, him hugging me from behind, that wide grin of someone who seemed genuinely happy. Or at least that's what I always believed. But now, with distance, I could see things I never noticed before. The way he was always positioned toward the camera, even in supposedly candid shots. The way in every photo he seemed to be performing, not living. Like every moment between us was an opportunity for him to produce content for the outside world. I used to think that was just him being charismatic. Now I saw it was him being empty. I grabbed my old journal, the one I kept in the first years of our relationship, flipped through random pages, and it felt like reading someone else's life. Today, he said I'm the only person who truly understands him. He surprised me with flowers for no reason. I think I'm the luckiest woman in the world. We fought because I asked why he hadn't introduced me to a new friend. He said I'm too insecure and that it's exhausting. I think he's right. I need to work on that. That last sentence made me stop. I need to work on that. How many times had I written that? How many times had I turned his lack into my flaw? I kept flipping. He said my insecurity is affecting the relationship. I'll try to trust more. He said I create problems where there aren't any. I'll try to be lighter. He said I overthink too much. I'll try to relax. Page after page of me molding myself, shrinking myself, apologizing for feeling what I felt. And then I understood. Samuel wasn't just a cheater, he was a manipulator. Every time I raised a legitimate concern, he flipped it and made me feel guilty for doubting him. Every time I asked for transparency, he accused me of being controlling. Every time I expressed insecurity, he framed me as the problem, and I, wanting so badly for it to work, accepted it. I took on the blame that was his. I doubted my own perceptions. I became smaller so he could keep being what he always was. Someone who needed constant validation from multiple sources because he had nothing solid inside himself. I closed the journal, and for the first time since everything blew up, I felt something other than pain. I felt anger, but not destructive anger, liberating anger. The anger of someone who finally understands they were deceived and can now choose not to be anymore. Scene 11. Choosing how it ends. A week after Samuel left, I was in the living room, staring at my laptop screen, holding a decision I never thought I'd have to make. All the videos were saved in a folder. Undeniable proof of everything, and I had two options. Option 1, post everything, expose him publicly, tag the clients, destroy his reputation as a personal trainer, make everyone who thought he was a great guy finally see who he really was. Full revenge, served cold and viral. Option 2, keep the videos only for the divorce. Use them legally if needed. Protect my rights. Move on without turning my pain into anyone's entertainment. My finger hovered over the mouse. It would have been so easy. Upload, enter, post. I could already imagine the comments, the views, people taking my side, cursing him, threads on Twitter about cheating. I could imagine the rush of vindication, of making him feel even a fraction of the humiliation I felt. But then I thought, and after? After the initial satisfaction faded, what would be left? The videos would still be on the internet, forever. My face, my story, my pain, turned into content anyone could watch, share, discuss. And me, I'd be stuck in that story forever. I'd always be the woman who exposed her husband online, not the woman who rebuilt her life, not the woman who healed, just the woman whose worst moment went viral. I closed the laptop, grabbed my phone and called my lawyer. I want a divorce. I have proof of adultery. I want to use it legally only. No public exposure. She asked if I was sure. Said I had every reason to want to expose him. And I answered, I know, but I don't want the worst thing that ever happened to me to be the only thing people know about me. I hung up, and I felt something strange. Not happiness. Not yet. But lightness. For the first time in weeks, I made a choice that wasn't about him. It was about me. About the kind of person I wanted to be on the other side of this story. And I didn't want to be the woman so consumed by revenge that she forgot to live. I wanted to be the woman who chose to move forward, even if it hurt. even if it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Scene 12, when the other woman was fooled too. 3 weeks later, I got a text from an unknown number. Hi, you don't know me, but I need to apologize to you. My stomach sank. I clicked the profile picture. It was one of the women from the videos. My first reaction was anger, the urge to block her, delete the message, pretend I never saw it. Because why did I have to hear an apology from someone who climbed onto my counter and kissed my husband? But there's something about pain. It makes you curious about other people's versions. So I answered, "Why are you apologizing to me?" The reply came fast. "Because I didn't know. He told me you two were separated. That you still lived there, but only until you found another place. That the marriage had ended a long time ago and you were just keeping up the facade for practical reasons." I took a deep breath. Of course, he said that. "How many times did you two meet?" I asked, not even sure why I wanted to know. "A few times, 4 maybe, always at your place." He said the gym was under renovation, that it was easier that way. I laughed, a bitter but real laugh. Gym under renovation. He used the same lie on everyone. "Do you want to talk?" she wrote. "In person. I get it if you don't, but I feel like, I don't know, like I owe you that." I stared at the message for 5 minutes. Part of me wanted to say no. I wanted to keep her as the villain in my head. It's easier to hate someone when you don't humanize them. But another part wanted to understand. "Coffee, tomorrow." 3 p.m., I answered, sending a neutral location address. She arrived before I did. Sitting in a corner, hands wrapped around her mug, nervous eyes scanning the place until she saw me. She stood up when I approached, awkward, unsure whether to shake my hand or keep her distance. I sat across from her. She was pretty, younger than me. Long hair, athletic body, the kind of beauty I used to silently envy. But looking at her now, sitting there with guilt in her eyes, I didn't feel envy. I felt sadness, because she had been fooled too. "Thanks for meeting me," she started, voice low. "Why did you want to?" I asked straight out. She took a deep breath. "Because when I saw that lunch, when I realized you didn't know anything, that you weren't separated, I felt disgusting." Her eyes filled with tears. "I would never go for a married man, ever. But he lied. He lied so well." I nodded. Because yeah, he lied well. "How long were you two seeing each other?" 3 months. More or less. He told me he was waiting for you to move out so he could make the separation official, that he had to be delicate because you were fragile. I almost spit out my coffee. "Fragile?" I repeated. "That's what he said." I shook my head, incredulous. "There were others, right?" I asked. She nodded, wiping a tear. "I found out later. There's a WhatsApp group now, of women he lied to. There are 7 of us. 7. 7 women he manipulated with the same script, the same technique, the same smile. And suddenly, looking at her, I understood something huge. It wasn't about me. It had never been about me. It wasn't because I wasn't pretty enough, interesting enough, good enough. It was because he was empty. And empty people try to fill themselves with attention, validation, admiration from everywhere because they never learned how to be whole on their own. "I don't hate you," I said, surprised by my own honesty. She looked at me, surprised too. "I hate what happened, but I know you were fooled too, and that doesn't take away my pain, but it changes something." She nodded, crying quietly. "Thank you," she whispered. We finished our coffee mostly in silence, and when I walked out, I felt something I didn't expect to feel. Compassion. For her. For me. For all of us who believed in someone who didn't deserve it. And for the first time, I felt that maybe I could forgive. Not him, but myself. For trusting. Scene 13, opening the window, removing the cameras. 2 months later, on a Saturday morning with no plans, I woke up with the sun coming through the window and realized it was the first time in a long time that I didn't wake up with a heavy chest. I got up, made coffee, sat on the kitchen counter, that same counter, and felt nothing. No anger, no pain, no trauma, just a counter. I grabbed my phone. The camera app was still there, hidden in a folder I barely opened anymore. I'd kept it all these months, partly for legal protection, partly because I wasn't ready to delete it yet. But today I pressed the icon until the uninstall option popped up, hesitated for 2 seconds, then confirmed. The icon vanished from the screen, just like that. I took a deep breath, got on a chair and removed the cameras from the living room and the kitchen, put everything in a box, sealed it, and shoved it to the back of the closet, next to old photos and objects from a time that doesn't exist anymore. I stepped off the chair and looked around. The house felt different. Not because anything had changed physically, but because I had changed. This house wasn't the stage for any betrayal anymore. It was just my house. I walked over to the big living room window, opened everything, curtains, glass, all of it, letting the cold morning air rush in, carrying the sound of cars, people talking outside, life happening. The wind messed up my hair, and I closed my eyes, feeling the breeze on my face. I was never going to be the woman who blindly trusted everything again, but I also wasn't going to be the woman who watched everyone like a hawk, terrified of being fooled again. I'd be something in between. Someone who trusts, but listens to her intuition. Someone who loves, but doesn't erase herself to make love work. Someone who believes in people, but knows when to believe in herself above all else. My phone buzzed. Message from my sister. Morning, want to come over for lunch? I made that lasagna you love. I smiled. Yes, I'm on my way, I replied. I grabbed my bag, locked the door, and went down the stairs instead of taking the elevator, because for the first time in months I wasn't in a hurry to run from anything. I was just moving. Forward. And when I stepped outside and the sunlight hit my face, I felt something I didn't think I was still capable of feeling. Hope. Not hope of going back to what I was before, but hope that what comes next can be better. Different. More honest. More mine. And that's when I finally understood the truth that took me months to accept. The cameras didn't destroy my marriage. They only showed me what was already in ruins while I kept my eyes closed. And if someone ever asks me if I regret installing them, I'll tell the truth. No. Because they saved me from spending the rest of my life doubting my own sanity. Saved me from being the woman who always feels something is wrong but never has the courage to confirm it. They saved me from myself. And today, walking down the street with the sun on my face and the wind in my hair, free from a marriage built on lies and from a man who never deserved me, I can finally say, I chose the truth. And the truth, even when it hurts, set me free.